For quite a while now, we've been telling you that the Walt Disney Company is at the edge of collapse, except for one division that holds everything together. Why, of course, it's Walt Disney World, but more broadly, it's the Disney Parks division. But Disney World is no small part of that. 30% of all of Disney's profit comes directly from Disney World Resort, a place that they appear to loathe and they don't put very much, shall we say, investment into. Something about the Sunshine State. But folks, today we're going to show you the mainstream media has caught on, and now they're recognizing Disney is bleeding the parks dry. Hello folks, welcome back to another episode of the WDW Pro Channel, another chance to journey through, not imagination, but through logic, facts, and fun, as we explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, keeping Hollywood at least a little bit more sane than if we did not exist. Folks, you're the gigawatts as always. Click the like button and let's dive straight in with a panel talking about today how the Disney parks are being, well, mistreated badly in order to subsidize the failures of Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN, the box office, and so much more of Disney's empire. You will not believe the stats, except that we're bringing the receipts. It's by Dirk Libby. It's out of Cinema Blend, and it might as well be out of the Pro Channel about last year. Wondering why Disney theme park vacations are so expensive? A new stat blew my mind and explained everything. Dirk, happy to have you now on the team. Disney parks are only getting more expensive, but it's not that shocking when you realize why. So let's find out, why are the parks so expensive as we've been telling you all? Here's the story. It's not exactly news to say that vacations to Walt Disney World and Disneyland are getting not only expensive, but also excessively so. Simply getting in the door of these parks costs hundreds of dollars. And if you want to have a good time while you're there, you're probably spending a lot more. It probably shocks nobody that Disney parks account for a significant portion of Disney's bottom line. But even Dirk, had no idea how vital the parks are to Disney right now, and it explains so much. Here to tell Dirk, we have been explaining this for a very long time, but we're glad that you have come to the same conclusion separately from us, and Dirk must have, because Dirk doesn't list us. So Dirk, apparently independently of our channel and Valiant Renegade and That Park Place and T3PO, came to the same conclusion. How about that? It's as if the truth is shining out there. A report in the Los Angeles Times point out that according to Disney's most recent SEC filing at the end of their financial year, the Disney Experiences division, which includes Disney parks and Disney cruise lines, here it is, folks, accounts for 70% of the company's operating income. Let's compare that now with their other stuff. The other two divisions, ESPN and entertainment, including the movie studios and TV channels, accounted for 19% and 11% respectively. The difference is staggering, and that is correct. Now, let's break down this statistic line here even further. The 70%, which is essentially one division of Disney, and by the way, I think this is where the thought comes from out of so many, that the Disney parks chair, Josh DeMauro, is next in line for the head of Disney. I don't think that's true, but I can see why they would think that just looking at this. But the 70%, if you were to break it down, the Walt Disney World Resort is a huge, huge part of that 70%. In fact, of the entire company, the Walt Disney World Resort is 30%. So let that sink in. The cruise lines come in next, followed by Disneyland. And then far off in the distance are the international parks. Now, where is all of the investment going? All of the investment seems to have been going into the international parks and into streaming. But remember, streaming accounts for only 19 and 11% respectively. Also remember, what has been the cost of all this? Well, we have been covering here on this channel that the theme parks have suffered dramatically in terms of attendance, specifically Walt Disney World. How much is it down? Well, using ThrillData.com, we figured out that the attendance is probably down something like 15% in 2 years. And how do we know that? Well, because the wait times are down, even despite the fact that rides like Splash Mountain are no longer available, which should mean that just by virtue of staying the same, the queues would grow, not shrink. So a decrease of 15% in wait times, we think probably correlates to a drop in attendance significantly over 2 years. But that's not all. What else was sacrificed chasing after the streaming venture? The box office. In 2019, the Walt Disney Company was generating over $11 billion in box office revenues. This year, Disney proper represents 0.37% of market share at the box office, and Disney is struggling to find a way to make $3 billion at the box office, a reduction of $8 billion potentially this year from pre-pandemic levels. And all of this has been chasing after that $100 billion boondoggle that is Disney Plus. Oh, by the way, it's $30 billion in the hole, and it's having to cannibalize Hulu to try to stay afloat. It was supposed to be Bob Iger's attempt at overtaking Netflix. That is gone. That is absolutely gone. Panel, your thoughts on this article showing that the Disney parks are subsidizing the entire failure of this company that has chased DEI and wokeness to its demise.
And I can't believe I have to say this again on one of these shows. It's worse than that. And here is how it's worse than that. We have this thing everybody calls the flywheel, which is the movies generate the IP that then becomes the attractions and then becomes the shows on the cruise ships and everything else. So to say, well, I can see why they're mentioning Josh, whether he's responsible or not, because his division is making money. It's making money in spite of the fact that the other side of the house, the movie house, can't get out of its own way. And that box office number is nothing compared to the net when they spend so much on losers. So as time goes by and less content from the movies is proven viable enough to go into the parks, the whole tower of Jenga falls down.
That's a great point. True. Andrew, as someone, I don't always think of you as being intrinsically and intensely focused on Disney parks. It's not to say that you're not. I just don't, tend to think that's your forte. Are you surprised at all to find out that 70% of this giant company is essentially running off the backs of theme parks?
No, actually, that doesn't shock me at all. Movies, especially big budget films, unless they do something absolutely insane, are seldom going to contribute heavily to the net profits of any of these studios, any of these companies. And especially with Disney, just because of their massive spending problems that they have currently. So the movies are essentially a big ad, just as Lou is suggesting right now, that they drive the IP to then incentivize people to either go to the parks, which is where Disney would make far better net, or to purchase merch, which is where they would make far better on net. And people aren't doing either of those things because the IPs are in a either stagnant position or they're in a position of massive decline. That's why Star Wars merch doesn't sell anymore. That's why Marvel merch barely sells anymore, unless they put out like retro figures that older collectors like myself are like, oh yeah, I loved that older Spidey suit. I do want that, right? Otherwise, you're not getting the widespread purchasing, even among kids anymore. Kids aren't going like, oh, I want this new Spider-Man figure. I want this. I want that. They don't care. And so they're shooting themselves in the foot. The IP is everything, and that's a good thing as long as the IP is healthy. But they're not caring for the IP. They're supposed to be the stewards. They have not been good stewards of these IPs that they have purchased, and as well as the ones that they themselves will use the term created very loosely, because Disney doesn't really create anything. They just co-opt, things that are,
Now, I'd like to show up this chart real quick to return back to the problems that Disney has when 70% of their total revenues and operating income is coming from the theme parks division. Here's the danger in that. We've shown this before. This comes to us from Mac over on Twitter/X. We're greatly appreciative of it. Of course, it's originally sourced out of Nielsen. Disney Plus losing ground. So that percentage that we were talking about before in terms of what entertainment is providing, remember we said the box office has collapsed? We've gone from $11 billion to under $4 billion. Well, Disney Plus is losing ground. And what that means is that's going to put even more strain on the parks to carry the entire load for the company. Because if Disney Plus cannibalizes Hulu and they drop and drop and drop and lose their formidable efforts against Netflix and YouTube, then this is going to be essentially a company that's dedicated to parks that's trying to get into sports betting. And that's going to be it with a failed streaming concept. So the danger here is, this is the danger. The danger is, and this goes back to the Splash Mountain thing we were talking about before, right? If the decisions that are being made in the parks are now matching up with what destroyed Disney Plus in the box office, so now, 3 or 4 years removed from the box office and the Disney Plus dive, removed from Star Wars, removed from Marvel, from the Phase 5 dive and the Phase 6 sickness that is Marvel, the parks now, if they begin to falter because of the DEI stuff, if they begin to falter because of the wokeness, Disney is in deep trouble because 70% is riding on the parks. So it is catastrophically bad if the parks begin to falter. Panel, your thoughts on how important the parks are and just how dangerous these kinds of decisions with Splash, Tiana, etc. might be, and why Disney perhaps should look at the past and say, holy cow, we destroyed our other divisions. Let's not do it here. Your thoughts, panel.
You know, it occurs to me that all of these companies are better when they don't own the creators of the IP because they have to satisfy those creators. Star Tours, they didn't own Lucas yet. The Indy ride at Disneyland, they didn't own Indy yet. And by the same token, J.K. Rowling's supervision of the Harry Potter IP is probably why it's so good, because she wouldn't settle for anything less. But when they own them, you talk about future IP and future. Look at, never mind Tiana, a popular, very popular princess and movie, which they have now, rather than building a new attraction, as you suggested, taken an old one, ruined it, but further gone far away from everything that was in the movie. Well, what about the famous Moana splash pad? The most powerful princess in the lineup, the most successful IP, I would say, overall, even than the Frozen stuff. And what do? They build a splash pad? That's it? If this new movie is enormously successful in spite of all the odds against it, they can't now suddenly do another Moana thing because, we did that already badly, and it's broken 6 months after it opened, or even less.
Very, very well said, Lou. So what I would say is that this is a company that is largely held together by the parks, and that all of these bad decisions have caused that to be, right? Look at the headline there, or the title of those paragraphs. Disney parks have a history of keeping the company going, but not like this. It's now being recognized by the mainstream. What the mainstream is not yet recognizing is that there's a reason the parks are maintaining the rest of the company. It's because the rest of the company has failed. It failed because it went woke, and now it's broke. It's what happened to Paramount, but Paramount doesn't have parks. Disney should park any ideas of going woke with Disney World and Disneyland beyond what they already have, and severely reassess that, I would say, to protect their futures. And investors, well, they should know about this keenly. And folks, we are done with yet another one, but do not fret, not yet, for more content is coming to you right here on this channel 3 times daily, usually in the morning, the evening, the afternoon, and, well, maybe even another time if we so choose. But folks, it's always fun to have you here with us. We mean it, an attitude of gratitude for you. Yes, you. We see you. We appreciate your views. Folks, like, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms, it's the notification bell, and drop a comment down below. Why? Because we covet your comments. We care about what you think. And wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.